Hello and welcome to the podcast. Today is a special edition because it's the three wise men of Spectrum. Myself, JV and Neil. It's been a right laugh, this podcast. We've done a bit of reflection looking back over the last 30 episodes and looking back over 2022. Some of the guests, the special guests that we've had, some of our favourite moments from the podcast and some of the things we've learnt along the way.
I was like, artificial intelligence, I went, it's going to take forever to come after the creative industry.
Most people have got the opportunity to develop themselves.
So you're making a significantly good business investment, but you must understand the cost of data.
How do you turn what you're already doing and maybe take that another step further?
Everyone can be a taster.
Microsoft MVP, most valuable professional.
Everyone brings things into work. We've all got personal lives and we all have bad times in life.
You will see my invoice in the morning.
And you'll never see me again. Spot on.
Thanks, Oliver.
No, thank you, Jen.
As usual, please like, subscribe, please share all the content as much as possible. It really does help us. And welcome to a very Christmassy special edition of Tomorrow's Workplace today. Cool, right. This is the end of 20... Put your phone away, come on.
Wow.
Just signing deals right till the end. So it's the end of 2022. Forgot what year it was for a second now.
It's been a hard year.
It has. It has been a good year though, I think. Particularly for the podcast.
Indeed.
Yeah. So we should be at about 30 episodes by the time this Christmas special goes out.
Can I say my signature term? No, I'm not going to say wow.
Save it for later. So yeah, I just wanted to get some reflections, chaps, on the last 30 weeks or so of the podcast. Did you expect to be on a weekly podcast if I'd asked you this 18 months ago?
Definitely not. You could have asked me 25 weeks ago. I would have said, no, I think we'll get to 2 or 3 and it will fizzle out. And no, loved it.
I think the key was probably getting guests on, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah. We were clutching a little bit when there was just us three waffling.
Yeah.
Speak for yourself.
They've got to now, obviously, that's coming to pay it now. So it's like, how do we...
we talk about the same stuff all the time, don't we? Automation. So it's a bit like, okay, so...
There's only so many times you can talk about
football,
automating an invoice that
you
think we need some guests on here. So
Yeah, and that definitely transformed it because it became educational for us as well, didn't it? And that's the thing I've
100%.
probably enjoyed the most is people coming in and I learn things, I then ask questions and I learn more and actually the things I probably would never have gone out of my way to find out about if you want, and then actually I leave and I think, I learned something there. That was brilliant. So that's really sort of giving it a real boost, I think.
yeah, absolutely. I think 30 episodes is an amazing achievement, actually. You found a little stat which I'm going to ask you to see if you can remember what it was.
Yeah, so I think it was something like 90% of all the podcasts don't even get past 20 episodes. So if you get past
Past 3.
Was it
It's 3? Yeah.
Past 3 episodes, and then was it out of those? Then it dropped off again.
That don't make it to 20.
Wow. Yeah. So again, you can clip the correct one in there, but in my head, then it's all about consistency. So I think there's a bit of a combination between yourself being quite proactive, finding guests, and then obviously Bax just booking it in our diaries.
That's it.
So I think chipping away at that and just making sure that, I suppose we had a plan, didn't we? But at the end of the day, it's been evolved over time, and now we've got a bit of a format that we can keep rinsing and repeating and
I think it's making a public commitment as well that we're going to release the podcast every single week, and we've made that public. And then it's like, oh shit, we actually have to do that now. So I think that's been an important lesson for us. But I think you're right. There's very few podcasts out there that have on 30 episodes. So
I think for me as well, absolutely, it's also those first 3, 4, 5 when it was just us, and like you say, we were sort of like clutching at subjects to talk about and things like that. And sort of, I'll be honest, the first few I was nervous as hell, thinking, when am I going to chirp in with something? And there have been times, which I'm sure will come up later in the podcast, where I wish I hadn't chirped in because I talked myself up. But now I look forward to them. I see it in the diary and I'm like, brilliant, what we're going to be talking about. And like I say, I love it.
Yeah, I maybe should prep a little bit because some of Steve's guests have been intelligence levels on there or different topics, and I'm sat there going, yeah. I agree. Touche. What can I say? That I'm just literally the odd one out in the corner. Like, shall I just leave now? But anyway.
Best thing about that is it's not that you're on screen all the time because you're right next to the guests, so you're always there like a mannequin.
My facial expression, my eyebrows going. I'm like, oh my god.
You remind me of my 5-year-old playing football when we get a very technical guest on, because when he gets bored, he just looks at leaves on the floor and starts picking twigs up. And
if I could get my phone out, I have to literally sat here and go, I'm going to have to stop frowning as much. But yeah, I might get Botox in the new year.
Yeah.
So I have to say, it would be remiss because this is, a Christmas special and all that and going through the things. I do recall last year, I went to town on your Christmas cardie.
Yeah.
Can I say, what a step up that is.
Yeah, it's an improvement, isn't it?
Mrs. Motley.
I was gonna give the credit to Mrs. Motley because she saw the episode and I think it pulled at heartstrings, to be honest. And
I'm not having my Stephen picked on.
And Christmas that year this appeared in the stocking. So
brilliant. Well, good first outing. I'm a bit disappointed we can't actually go to town, but you actually, when you walked in the office today, I was like, yours might be better than ours. So, Wellesley, did you get the memo about Christmas jumpers today?
Yeah, Bax was very clear in his.
It was pretty crystal, wasn't it?
clear but late, I would say. Clear but late, quite late.
In fairness, we haven't knitted these. I was going to come in with last year's jumper, so quick visit to a shop earlier. I've now come in with a...
You've gone reindeer, have you?
I have, yeah. I just thought it's something I could probably wear. And I chose Wellesley's as well.
You took mine.
Which he quite liked. So if he disses it now, I'll be upset.
To be fair, it's very warm. And also, I know I said medium, but it's a bit snug. I've maybe put on a bit. I maybe need to get back in the gym again.
I did question that. I did actually say, are you sure medium?
You are not a medium.
I am medium. So,
So
a little bit of space there. You're all right.
So as you said, we've had an eclectic mix of guests over the last few weeks. And I'd like to take you back and just reflect a little bit over the last 30 episodes. And while I thank all the guests, because, as you said, we couldn't do this without them, I think it would be good just to pick a couple each that probably been the standout for you, if that's all right. So who wants to go first? JV?
Oh, wow.
You're the man.
Well, like I said earlier, for me, everyone that, every pod that I've been on, I've enjoyed because I've learned something. But I did drop in, my favourite term quite a lot in this particular pod, which was the one with Neil on testing, Neil Finlay. I loved it. How can you say, right, it's Grand National Day, we're going to get 30 million punters coming onto our websites when it's not Grand National Day and you haven't got 30 million? How can you test
simulate,
for that?
like simulate it.
Yeah, how do you model that? Yeah. So because you're talking such big numbers and such events, Black Friday as well, you need to use tools and technology to support that. In the old-fashioned days, you might have had 10 people all logging on at the same time. Right? Everybody press OK. and I've been there, and it's as draconian as it sounded, it kind of worked.
Yeah.
But at that point, no, you're not, because we understand so much more about how applications perform now due to tools and technologies. Monitoring tools tell us now that, well, actually, we can see spikes before they happen and that side of things. So how do we model that and test them? We can do one of two things. We can do one of three things. We can model that in the fact, say, right, we need a representative environment with representative load to be able to say, right, our environment's the same as live, so let's test that accordingly. We can scale down, so we can say, well, our environment, we can't afford another production environment because these aren't cheap. Yeah. So we'll scale it down to 50%. So put 50% of the load down and 50% of the requirement. Yeah. So we can do those three things. Or equally, what we can do is we can report back saying, based on what we have got and the tools we have got, this is the capacity that we think we're going to hit before you hit a problem. Now, organizations that use the cloud and can scale that, can use that information to say, right, when we get to 80% of that top whack, we're going to spin off in our environment, or we're going to create other technology assistance to avoid that sort of situation. So again, it's back to testing and informing people based on, right, this is where we think you're going to hit problems based on these numbers. Because how do you come up with the numbers in the first place? You know, if you're coming into it, you're relying on what history tells you. But if you're going into a new space, there's a new Grand National, for example, that we don't know about, and well, where do you start? So sometimes you've got to rely on testing to say you can go up to these levels before it's starting to be a problem.
I never even considered how technical and how detailed testing was, and like I said in that particular pod, for me it was around, I think there's an educational piece for clients as to the power of it, because at the moment it's like, right, when's our solution going to be up and running? Well, in X time, but you've got to go through testing. Yeah, we haven't got time for testing, but it's probably right. Build's very important, but testing it to certain criteria and making sure that it's fit for purpose and it does all that you want is massively important. And I don't think up until that pod I necessarily appreciate that, even though I sell solutions. I'm just like, all right, brilliant, I've sold the solution, let me know when it goes live and I'll catch up with the client and see how things are. But actually the way Neil described in a lot of useful detail the process of testing and what's involved, I loved every minute of that one.
Yeah, it's brilliant because you get people that are very, very passionate about a specific topic, and Neil is hugely passionate and hugely knowledgeable about testing. And our job's easy, isn't it? Because we're just interested people, just asking questions about them and what they do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. It shone a light on that, and then my brain was thinking about, okay, how do you build that into what we sell, and how do you sort of support that customer through that journey? And really, I think I'm more or less seeing it early doors in the pre-sale. This is how it works, and if we're successful and you're going live, you need to actually make sure that you test, and it's imperative that you do, because 9 times out of 10, the ones that cause problems down the line, they haven't tested, or they've not done enough testing, and then it's like, oh, why ain't this working? Well, it's like, how much can we? And it's also that ownership thing, because there's a perceived perception. Oh, well, I'm buying something. You should do it for me. Well, hang on, we're not in your business. You've asked for this requirement. Like, we can show you where to press the buttons, but ultimately, are you happy that that's the desired outcome that you wanted it to do? And because otherwise, we can configure it differently. Or
and that's a great bit of content now that we've learned some stuff through that podcast, but we can also put that in front of clients or show it to clients, and great bit of content that they can hopefully watch, listen to, and learn a bit as well.
Yeah, that's definitely.
Yeah, I think because ultimately it's just that educational piece of them understanding why we see it as being that important. So now, as you said, the content, we can just say, look, do yourselves a favour, watch that, or even just watch the middle 40 minutes. You'll learn an awful lot as to why we're asking you. Because as you said, Neil, for me, there's times where clients are like, oh, I haven't got time, or that, and then when we go, right, we'll go live, and then 2 weeks down the line, oh, it doesn't do that, forgive us. We put that in there, and so I thought that was really enlightening. So that's my first one.
Go on, Neil. What's
one of my favourite ones is Rich Kenny, so from Tech Buyer and his new business. So I saw Rich do a talk initially a couple of years ago, and again, it was his passion and his sort of energy about his particular topic. So the whole sustainability piece, and when he starts going on about Despacito as a thing and how much energy it's consumed, as like two or three small African countries worth of energy in terms of data centers. It just like, you don't think about it. You just play a song on your mobile. You don't have a clue where the energy's coming from or how it's streaming and all that type of stuff. It's a bit of magic. But again, someone that's so passionate about a particular topic, and again, it's very topical globally with the climate change and energy consumption and renewables and that type of thing. And he hits on a good point. Like, why don't you buy tech that's nearly new as opposed to having brand new stuff? You can quite easily, if you look at your requirements list, and you can get it at a fraction of cost, it's still functionality, and you're saving the planet, not having to build new all the time. And a lot of that side of things, it again struck a chord with even the solutions when we're talking to customers. It's asking those questions. Do you really need a new server? Why don't you get a refurbished one or whatever, and things like that. But You probably beat me in terms of speed of
Oh,
talk
God.
and passionate. It was like, can we get a wedge in entrance?
Yeah.
But yeah,
It's like drinking from a fire hydrant, was it?
yeah.
It's difficult when he's so knowledgeable about a topic to be able to take on what he's saying and then find the next question.
That's his profession now. He's in research. He's in that sort of world where he's releasing papers and they're sort of peer reviewed and all this type of stuff. So he's in that sort of world where the knowledge is second to none, and he's actually taking that knowledge to the big companies like Amazon and others on how to run the data centers and how to be more efficient. Because if you think about those massive companies that have huge data centers throughout the world, their energy bills must be absolutely astronomical.
Yeah.
So any sort of
Especially
saving
today.
must be huge. But yeah, it all comes back to data, which is obviously a crossover into kind of what we do. But he had some interesting topics about equality as well, in terms of females on the board and making sort of, and again, that then led into our discussion internally, which I think did well with Amy and stuff like that. So it was, I suppose we've touched all sorts of topics, haven't we, really?
We have,
How
yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely.
Sort of crosses over into
There is-
different areas.
Yeah, there's been a few themes that keep popping up, isn't there? Like sustainability and like equality that's come up a few times. Mental health has come up.
They've been good, those ones.
Yeah, and talent as well, and how businesses are kind of finding talent at the minute.
Environmental covers, education. It covers welfare. It covers social impact. It covers, commitment to doing the right thing in the right way. It covers mental health. It covers all these things, and then it also covers the governance aspects of it as well, as in making sure we're doing things right, like not buying human slaves to assemble our goods, for example, which most manufacturers pretty much do, but they don't call it slavery. They just call it a work contract or a 0 hours contract. And we look at that and say, well, what's the benefit of caring about your workforce? And if you change it to that rather than what's the benefit of caring to the environment? Well, we don't all die and my son gets to not live on a planet that's hotter than the sun. There's a huge benefit to looking at the environment. Socially, what's the investment in your people brought you as a business at Spectrum? Because you care about your employees, right?
Absolutely.
Like, I mean, I've just walked around your office. For anyone who hasn't been here, it's a really cool office, by the way. But like, it's a cool office, but people seem pretty happy. Like, I haven't seen anyone smack with a whip to make them move faster, which is normally a good thing.
Pull the whips away when
You did it. It's good. I will, you know
when
what?
the cameras come out.
And I appreciate that because it makes my job easier. But the stuff you've got around here, you've got clear spaces. I can see that you've got stuff that's been thought out around how you're laying out the office for comfort and things like that. What's the benefit of that to you as an employer? And that's what I'd ask you, because that's part of sustainability, is the social aspect of how you're looking after your employees. Do you pay them a good wage? Probably.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, so why do you pay them a good wage?
So we can keep hold of talented people, and they enjoy working here. And when people enjoy working, they perform better, and it's a cyclical, self-fulfilling
Look
thing.
after the customers better, and then they.
I mean,
keep buying
on a
from-
personal level for your employees, it's so they can buy food, and
Yeah,
pay their
gosh,
rent,
absolutely.
and
Yeah.
so there's an aspect of that where you go,
Quality of life. Yeah.
as an employer, your responsibility, and I'm not saying this is what you should be doing, I'm just saying what you can do, but you should be making your employees' lives better.
Yeah.
Like, you shouldn't be coming to work and going, look, you need to chase my profit because I need a new Ferrari, or I need a new Porsche. That's the 80s way of looking at things sometimes, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like, your role is to facilitate the CEO making a fat wedge. And it's like, I think we're seeing that transformational change now where people go, do you know what? Like, I could do a million different jobs. I can work wherever I want for whoever I want. So I'm going to work with someone who's got a bit of moral fiber. Now, you need to pay me right because I do need to live. But I'm not so bothered about you having a slide that goes from the top floor to the bottom floor. But I am particularly bothered about you making sure I've got healthcare, and that if I'm having a bit of a meltdown, that someone puts their arm around me and makes sure I'm okay. And it'd be really nice if I wasn't sexually harassed at work. Do you know what I mean? Like, these would be things that would be quite important to me. And it's stupid to have to talk about these things in 2022, but we do because they're still happening. So what I would say is, what's the impact of sustainable on your business? Just on the social side, just focus on the social side. Happy, healthy, responsive, looked after, cared for employees, which means easier to recruit, higher retention, greater levels of happiness, less sick days. There's a list as long as your arm there, just saying, what happens if you pay people right? I don't lose them. Okay, why is not losing someone good? Because good people are actually a valuable resource, and we treat them as not human capital, but as members of our family.
Yeah, so my number one would probably be Nick Marshall, actually, who obviously a guy I've known for a long time and always respected, always been a great leader, and people have always kind of, I guess, warmed to him as an individual, and that's why I was keen to get him on. And I think that came across in his podcast.
He didn't let you down, did he?
He didn't.
He
no.
was brilliant.
I can remember when we used to work up in Stockton. I used to commute there every single day. Used to get back 7 o'clock in the night time. At that point in time, I had kind of a 4-year-old boy, and every time I came through the door, I didn't give him the time because I'd been up at 6 o'clock, and his attitude and his behaviour started to change, and he started to become quite troublesome. And I was talking to somebody, and they said, "You need to do the 4-minute rule." I went, 4-minute rule, what's that? I went, as soon as you come through that door, give them 4 minutes, just talk through everything, let that person, give them the loves, the kisses, ask them what they're doing, and then go upstairs, get changed, and come down and carry that conversation. And I did it, and his behaviour's changed. And it was just, you're like, it sounds really simple, doesn't it? You think to yourself, why did you not just think about that yourself? But sometimes you get lost in your own world. And that's why reflection is so important. You need someone just to, every now and again, give you a little tap on the shoulder and just go, have you tried this? And then you have to be receptive to go, you know something, that's got some mileage in it. And it would just, it were a game changer. And it's something. But I was so dismissive because you're lost in your own world, aren't you? Your head is like, I'm stressed. I just need to decouple what's gone on through the day. But you're not thinking about how your attitude is having a direct impact then onto somebody else's behaviour. You can take that back to your leadership style that says, why is that person acting that way? Well, it comes back to, well, what are you doing first of all? Is it because of the way that they're being managed? Is it that they've not got clarity? Is it that they're being put in an environment where they feel like they're being set up to fail? Because they don't have the toolbox at the moment. So it's all those things.
And just very open, very transparent. And it's rare to get somebody onto a public forum like this who's willing to talk about himself as openly as he did, which I thought was brilliant.
And he wore sort of two hats as well, because he was equally as knowledgeable in the sales and marketing element, and he sort of talked the talk and walked the walk, as in he was doing it on LinkedIn. He sort of publishes every day and that type of thing. He's putting content out there, so I thought that was good where he linked it all together and again made it personable and he really understood that. And I think he is in tune with what the current climate want, how businesses want to interact with businesses. He gets that people buy from people, so let people know who you are. Like, don't just keep banging on about the product that you're selling. It's a case of do we actually like people first? Well, actually, I quite like this guy. I'll put a call in or I'll message him and see if he can help me.
And his leadership,
the leadership bit was good.
He did a part of the pod around leadership, and I'll be honest, I was sitting here listening to him thinking, I could work for you.
Just got any jobs?
No, I did that via LinkedIn. I DM'd him after. But absolutely, just he was his outlook on management, his outlook on developing people and himself. I was just like, do you know what? Yeah, you're someone that I can see why people would want to get into a boat and follow you, wherever you're going, because actually you're gonna see them right, you're gonna help them, you're gonna develop them. And at the end of it, on the back of a lot of the things that he's done, you're probably going to do all right, I would suggest.
Hi guys, I just want to jump in and talk about a specific area of automation which we often get involved in, which is the processing of supplier invoices, or accounts payable automation as it's also known. Most businesses have invoices that they get sent from their suppliers. Essentially what our solutions do is they read those invoices, they extract key information from them, like purchase order numbers, supplier codes or supplier names. We then use that information and match that up against digital records. So can we find a purchase order number? Can we find a goods received note for that product? If we can, then we can match it up, we can reconcile it, and we can automatically post that into your finance system. What makes us different is that we configure our solutions to be specific to your organisation. So we're not an out-the-box, plug it in and see what you get. We actually understand more about your processes, your organisation, your supplier base, and we configure the solution to meet those requirements. Hopefully that's enough to pique your interest. If it is, get in touch. Let's have a chat. So that's free, right? Let's go around again. So JV,
I need to go back the other way now.
I need a second
I'm trying
from
to
you.
think of a second one. Paul from Andy's Man Club, mental health. He was Paul Longley. Very passionate. Another one where trying to get a word in was a challenge, but he. Having spent 32 years as a production planner in a large manufacturing plant across the bridge, I had a bit of a breakdown from what I can remember, and then decided that from then on I actually wanted to do something that he was passionate about, and you could really tell in that pod his passion about mental health and making sure that people know that there's always someone that they can talk to. So he did it within that particular environment, but then he went alone and did his own thing, created his own company. So he now goes around the region, going into some of the clients that he's got pretty much all the blue chip ones in Hull. He goes round and gives talks and advice as to how companies can develop their mental health strategy, because we were saying, I think, you can always have, first aid and all of that and make sure everyone's physically all right, but we're only starting to get into the whole mental health side of things. And he came across very knowledgeable, very passionate, and caring as well, which obviously in that sort of role you've got to be. But he gives up a day of his working week to represent Andy's Man Club in the region, going around and advising. And he heads up, 7 different Andy Man Clubs in Hull alone. When I say heads up, he oversees them, makes sure they're all going, and he pops in and visits every Monday at 7. So he does that one day a week, and I thought, do you know what, fair play, that's brilliant. I kind of made me, I'm of an age where it's still a bit of a taboo subject, but he did open my eyes. It goes back to the whole learning of when people come in, and I kind of thought, there's some things in there that I'll remember, and if I need to go there that route, I won't hesitate, because it seemed like it was a real welcoming sort of environment, really.
What does a Monday evening session look like?
So we asked 5 questions. We asked an introduction and 5 questions. So the introduction is your name and one positive reason why you're here. Now, for guys who are coming for the first week, they might say, I haven't got positive. But they have. Actually walking through that door is a massive positive, because it's their first step on their journey to recovery. So then it'll be, question 1, how's your week been? So guys will tell you how the week's gone. Highlight of your week. So you might have several highlights, but just give us your really big highlight of your week. And then we'll go off and talk about that with each guy. So we might have 15 guys in a room. So they'll all talk about their experiences. And then question 3 is anything to get off your chest. Now, this can be positive or negative. So this can be where last night I was going to take my life. As a child, I was abused. You can have all the darkest, deepest, but you might not get them at week 1. It might be week 4, week 5, week 6 when they actually feel really comfortable about that environment, because we work on Chat Mouse rules, whatever's said in there stays there. But it might take them a few weeks before they're really comfortable in that environment. Then you get, bang, this is why I'm here. And then the 4th question might be, where's your go-to place that makes you feel really, really happy? And then the first 3 questions stay the same every single week. But the 4th and 5th question, the 5th question might be, what's one positive thing you're going to do for yourself or somebody else between now and next week? So all the questions are based on, and like the last 2, of hope. So it gives them hope for the next week. And a lot of guys, a lot of people, when they take their own lives, it might not be just one event. It'll be a load of different layers of different stuff. And then it might be that least little thing that pushes them over the edge. Well, at Andy's Man Club, getting stuff off your chest and talking about your feelings and your emotion chips away at them layers. So we're trying to get you at the bottom of the cliff before you get to the top.
So, all right. So Neil, next one on the list.
Yeah, I guess one that links quite nicely into that was Jack Laters from Latest Health. So obviously his business is going from an occupational health perspective. So yeah, doing all that side of it, but it links in quite well with mental health, and you can't really separate physical, mental, because it kind of all links together. But I think what I took away from that was it's a different type of business in a different sector, but he's still looking at it from a tech perspective. And I got that even with Harry Ricks, for example. So that you've got a long, like a business that's been around, but everybody's trying to look at their businesses through a new lens, like through from a technology point of view. What can I leverage? What can I build into or bake into their services and products? So whether it be an app, whether it be something that can actually, get their service out there. Because obviously we sell tech and automation, but some people are falling behind if they're just a bricks and mortar type store, because otherwise, if they haven't got an e-commerce or if they haven't got some sort of tech enablement within the business, they're going to be going out a bit to the point where Jack went even further, where he was talking about the metaverse and things like that, and how he's looking to develop a metaverse hospital and things like that, which I didn't expect, and took it even to the nth degree. And I think he even said something like, we have to look at it as a tech business, because if we don't, we won't be around from a longevity perspective
Sure.
as well. And I'm like, wow, okay.
What business isn't a tech business nowadays?
That's what I mean, yeah. So if you're a business owner and you're out thinking that way, you'll soon, not be a business owner much longer.
Exactly.
You've got to build a real environment of trust, first of all, because as a manager, think how good you would be able to be if you were able to actually see how people were sleeping and then speak to them, say, how can we help you as an employee? But to start with, you've got to get away from the issues where the employee's like, I don't trust you with my data. If you can get over that and people say, actually, it benefits me for you to see my data, or for the well-being champion within the organization to see the data, then all of a sudden it's like you're taking the brakes off to really improving people's health.
Creating transparency. So how are businesses? How are businesses achieving that? How are they getting their people to be open with that type of data?
I think everything starts with culture to begin with.
Okay.
So if you've got to work on building that culture of trust, and you can't do that on, just literally getting everyone together, having a great away day, and everyone being like, yeah, let's go. We all trust each other. It's only going to come over time, and it's like any form of trust. It takes a long time to build, and you will break it with a second, won't you, in one action. So there's no quick answer to that. It's literally about getting your culture right, making sure everyone's bought behind the same mission, and seeing those little things, those like 1% marginal gains, which most people would consider sleeping well as, even though actually I'd consider it as a big gain. How those 1% gains make the organisation.
So Dan Larden, who talked brilliantly about kind of digital marketing, advertising, and then Oliver Yonchev as well, who was just fantastic. Just two really impressive guys who, again, have achieved so much at relative young age.
Yeah.
And just very, very articulate, very passionate, very
knowledgeable.
Just very knowledgeable. Yeah.
Is that why I didn't get the invite? I didn't make the cut.
We wanted to keep them engaged.
Yeah, exactly. You can hang on. I was thinking, where have you gone? You got to London. Where's my invite? I felt a bit left out.
We had a day out in London.
So is it valid then? So the conversation over the dinner table about dog food, then suddenly I'm being targeted with dog food. What is that? Just a coincidence, or what? How is that happening?
Well, it's definitely not coincidence, because that's just Facebook being really, really good at understanding what you may or may not be interested in.
Okay.
So it's basically a really good advert for our industry to brands, because you sort of, as a brand, you're like, I either want to target people that may be interested in my product, so I can sort of use some awareness campaign, right? So that in the category of like a potential dog owner or cat owner for sort of Mars Pet Care, right? Who sell, that's amazing. I want to be able to do that, and they've never been able to do that before at scale. But they've only been able to buy like a TV ad slot, right? Which is you can't target. So that was a really good advert for it. But the reason why it happens is because the algorithm is constantly looking at the ads that you're shown and then understanding the engagement that you have with those ads. And it's doing that obviously millions and probably trillions of times, a month, let's say. And it's not just about you, it's obviously about that with your friends that you're connected to. So this is my theory of how it works is that you're talking about that product because your mate is telling you about it. And your mate who sat next to you has probably done some sort of interaction online regarding that product, like visited the website or engaged in it. That algorithm doesn't know you're sat next to each other, but it knows your mates sort of thing. And it knows you have a similar profile. So it's like, oh, well, I might as well try those 100 friends or those 500 friends sort of thing. So that's in my head, that's probably how it works. A simplified way, of saying how it works. But that then leads to, I was talking to my mate about this thing. I didn't look at this. I didn't go on the website. I didn't do anything. And then I saw the ad. So my phone must be listening to my conversation. So it's creepy to users. But
I think he's in with them. He's a shill. He's trying to throw us off the scent.
I can't believe it.
They were mega, actually. I really enjoyed both of them. Again, learnt so much, Dan, around the whole, Alexas and Siris are all listening in, and there's no sort of coincidence, and suddenly you get adverts, and I was just like, wow, I'm so naive in things like this, but he really opened up my eyes to what these digital marketing agencies are able to do, how they're able to use that data.
Saw behind the curtain a little bit, didn't you? You saw what's going on.
100%.
And Oliver, we're trying to grow a business, grow a digital agency, and we are growing it. But then you speak to Oliver, that's been to New York and set up the New York office.
Yeah,
and
just got
grown it
Uber,
and
told the CMO of Coca-Cola, there's better ways to do this. And he,
Yeah.
you know, one of the most globally recognised brands in the world. And he went, yeah, there's better ways to do this. And to be fair, the CMO of Coca-Cola went, I'm all ears.
Yeah, but it's inspirational and it opens your eyes and it thinks, well, yeah, why can't we open a New York office in a few years and why can't we do that? And
we're all for it.
I'm sure you are.
Although having said that, I do think we need to put. Shame Rob's not on this one, but we need to put in a claim for whether we can put a slide.
That's true. £70,000 slide.
A £70,000 slide. It was
what was this?
Yeah, it was at the flight story, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was the original Social Chain.
Social Chain, yeah, forgive me,
Yes.
yeah. Social Chain, yeah.
But it was a wow moment, wasn't
it?
it?
It was. It absolutely was. It was like, okay. Mind you, it was a wow for him, wasn't it? Because he rocked up and he was like, what's this? And then, yeah, he moved on, you know, like 750, was it 750 employees? He joined at 30 or 40, and
I think they were at 750 million turnover.
Okay, yeah. Detail again. Not a strength of mine.
I want to just take you forward a bit, Oliver. So if you think of your industry in terms of what you do in terms of marketing, what is that going to look like in 10 years' time?
What is marketing going to look like in 10 years' time? It's really interesting. I love Notre Dame's exercises because I can't be wrong. Or I can't be wrong in 10 years,
We're
right?
going to dig this out in 10 years.
I love just speaking to the future because, like, prove me wrong. Go on. So I think what you're seeing is a shift. If I look at the macro shift, so marketing evolved when the internet came along and things started to become digitized. So we went from things in the real world to things being put on the internet, and email, websites started to evolve, commerce started to evolve as a consequence of that. So that's like the interesting space. Then social media comes along and we start to behave differently and we're more interconnected. And this creates new opportunities for businesses and for marketeers. And what that's done is it's created a system where, you know, I think brands and businesses need to have a deep, nuanced understanding of online platforms to be effective. I think they need to remove all those barriers we talked about, ego, and just work and reverse engineer the right thing to do it consistently over time. And that's like a good marketing strategy. And then I think the transition is like all these new technologies that are evolving, the next iteration of the internet. What it means for is there's going to be new commercial models. Creators or people that have an audience, content creators, now are going to stop working with brands and they're going to start like creating their own products and services. They already have the thing that's valuable, influence and an audience. They're now better placed. I heard a quote recently that suggested it's never been easier in history to turn content and influence and an audience into capital. And what that means is you've never been able to commercialize an audience like you can today, an individual can. So I think we're seeing a shift in like the power plays and how brands will interact with like individuals and creative and media. And then if I go one step further and talk macro business 10 years in the future, I'm obsessed with machine learning. I was like, artificial intelligence, I went, it's going to take forever to come after the creative industry. I used a tool called DALL-E 2, which is basically you input like a design system. So I type, I'd like to put this picture, I'd like to make his head bigger, I'd like to put it in an abstract scene and create a logo. And like, it will do something that is phenomenal. And like, as part of a design aid in the design process, I went, oh, designers are fucked. I was like, I'm so off. You're finished, all of you. Like, machines are going to do this, and they do it better than most of you.
I think you're the worst, but I'm quite close behind in terms of the wow factor.
Yeah. Jack Latest definitely had a few wow moments where I was like, wow. But yeah, I'm sure I am. But to be fair, I'm not afraid to say wow if I've learned something new. And you know, maybe every pod. If we went through every pod, I reckon if you had like
I think Ellie's gonna be editing these and just. I think it'd be quite a good little YouTube.
Well, not
little short.
When you learn something new, I'm all learning a new word. Yeah, over Christmas I'll do that just for you, Bax. No problem.
I want mega.
He'll go full.
See,
he'll go full Russell Brand on you now and come out with some Simon Jordan with some eloquent.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that. Other people in the office use Mega, and I do use Mega, but just Wow's got that wow factor, isn't it?
I'm a wow man.
Wow. Like, wow.
Wow. So, do you think we've found our roles on the podcast? And if so, what do you think they are? Individually, I mean.
Well, I'm just a token idiot.
Times two. It's like thing one and thing two. We need one of them jumpers on.
Yeah, I think we definitely have. You've can we say this to our boss? But you've definitely, you're made for that role, because the way you join it up, the way you keep it flowing in the right direction. Sometimes the questions you ask, I'm like, yeah, never thought of that. Go back to the token idiot. So I think, yeah, you're really good. And then I think, think one, think two. I think we've got it nailed down. And then when we add that little sprinkle of Rob in there as well, it's good. I like asking questions because I like to learn more. And I, in fairness to Wellesley, I think sometimes there's subjects he probably already knows about. And I'm like, I don't know anything about. So I'm genuinely coming from a position of, I'm a blank piece of paper. Just give me something that I don't know. So
I'm like Jack and Ori. I just like telling stories. So
it's not about you, though. You're not the guest.
But this is the way that I make sense of the world, in terms of if someone's talking about a particular subject and I've got any sort of recollection of what that is, I like to tell a story through either my own experience or my customer's experience. And say, I remember when this happened to my customer and they went from this to this, and that kind of paints a little bit of a picture. But it's also, I'm kind of an auditory learner, so I have to talk it out to then make sense of the information. Because if I'm sat there nodding, going, yeah, it's the little hamster wheels going.
Sometimes we lose.
Nothing's happening.
Sometimes I look at the table, look across the table, and I think Neil's gone. But you're good at reinforcing kind of the points that the guest makes.
That I like in terms of sales, marketing, obviously health and fitness and things like that. I think when it got detailed into some of the background that you've got experience in from your Arco days, whether it be testing, and when it gets quite in the weeds with the technical stuff, I'm a bit like John. I'm learning. Every day's a school day. I'm learning different things. But again, if you think about my role, a lot of the time I have to take complex subjects, and then I'm communicating with multiple different businesses and business owners at different levels. One minute I'm talking to the person in accounts payable, next minute I'm talking to the CIO of a big business. So I've got to be able to sort of tell stories at different levels, and also build that into our solutions or our offering, if you like. So there is bits that we've obviously learned from people who think, actually, we could probably build that in as a package, like testing or something like that, or offer it as or even like the stuff with Harry or whatever it is. But
do you remember we had that Bax bloke on?
Yeah.
What do you think to
that? It was just all about him, really, wasn't it?
So should a business owner pick their platform and say, right, I'm going to focus on LinkedIn, or should they be across all platforms, or how does that work?
They'll definitely have a platform of choice.
Yeah.
Most people I talk to, if I say TikTok, they just like, they don't get it. But again, this goes back to go on the platform and understand it yourself, and you'll start to realise that it's not 12-year-olds dancing, in the bedroom. In fact, the vast majority of TikTok users are over 22, I believe. Don't fact check me on that. But basically, I think 75% of TikTok users are adults.
Right.
In my opinion, you should be on every platform. But again, it's one step at a time. Find a platform where it works for you. Get used to that. Get consistent. Then start to incorporate the other platforms.
So are we saying, like you said, have your kind of like, your chosen platform, but don't ignore the others?
Yeah.
Are we saying that you have to have different content or different styles of content for the different platforms? Or are we saying that actually the predominant one that you're targeting, just use that and then reuse it, if you will, in the lesser formats?
Yeah, generally speaking, if content works well on one platform, it's likely to work well on the others. Now, you, like Wellesley said, you might need to like reformat the dimensions or whatever. You might need to cut it to make it shorter and just have like the salient points. But ultimately, if something works really well on TikTok, it's probably going to work really well on LinkedIn. For, like the video you were talking about earlier with my daughter, the treasure hunt video, that was a TikTok video that did decent on TikTok. And then I thought, well, all right, how can I sort of repackage the message and sort of went, oh, you know, parents, working parents, if you want something fun and cool to do with your kid, want to get some brownie points from your kids this weekend, try this out.
And then he interrupts the pod sometimes because he just wants to be in the pod. No, but you're actually, in fairness, I couldn't do it to your ego, but I did enjoy it when you came on. You know, how you had to go from however many hundreds of thousands down to zero to build it back up again. Fair play.
I'm a fighter.
Yeah.
Go get stuff and all that. And I have found my way onto the podcast a little bit.
You have?
Yeah.
Strangely.
Yeah. That's why you didn't get the invite to London, because he wanted to come on.
He muscled in, didn't he?
He was like, "Well, I'll do a dual role."
Love it.
It's not true for watchers, listeners. No, but I think what Bax's podcast did was it explained part of the reason we're sat here doing this, isn't it? And it's that idea of creating content that hopefully adds value to people and makes people aware of who we are and what we do in a way that helps people.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I found it a bit strange that people have said, "Oh, I saw your podcast and it was really good, a really interesting subject and things like that." I'm like, well, me and interesting don't go together. So actually being part of something interesting is actually really good.
What they say to me is, it was actually quite good. And
They're quite surprised.
Actually, was it? All right.
That's the wife.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. In fact, I just interviewed somebody before we came in, and within 5 minutes, he had described about 3 of the podcasts to me. He'd obviously watched the podcasts and thought they were really good and represented us in a good place.
I've had quite a bit of feedback from my customers as well, and some Mickey taking like, oh yeah, you should be asking for autographs and all the rest of it. I'm thinking, well, hang on, he's taking my limelight now. I used to host the webinars. Like, we started with webinars, and then that got canned, and then Mr. Motley's now the man. But no, to be fair, you do it a lot better than me. I'm not jealous at all.
So what about I'm digging my own trench here.
During the war. During the war.
What about sort of faux pas and things like that? Any memorable ones?
Well, I didn't realise how facially expressionate I am until I saw some of the videos, and I'm like this, and my eyebrows are going on my face. I'm thinking, I've had people screenshot stuff and send it to me with like smiley, laughing face emojis, and I'm like, wow. There we go. Which I'm sure Ellie will find funny if she wants to clip them as well.
My problem's more I think of a question, but you're waffling away or something, and then I'm like, right, I'll start, and then I lose track, and then it's that
was one of the funniest videos.
Yeah, but Bax and Ellie proper tucked me right up on that, and that's.
I think we need to push that out in the shorts. That's just funny. YouTube shorts.
You're like an old car trying to get
The other thing, though, just jumping in, the other thing is that actually you've only got to look one of the but that said, I've lost my train of thought. Wow. Can I just say, Bax, do you not think I want to spit it out? But my cogs are turning at a little slower rate, and I can't, which is why I much prefer when guests are here, I can learn.
We did have that feedback, didn't we? I think Lee said that to us. He was quite surprised how he was like, "Oh, I don't get it. Like, why are you guys like real comfortable?" And the other guys like they'd hate it. Like some of the print guys are like, "Oh, I don't like the camera on me. Do it like yeah."
But you forget it's there, don't you?
You do, yeah. Yeah. It's like anything. If you haven't done something before, you're always a bit nervous. It's that competence and confidence scenario. You become more confident when you become more competent. Mm-hmm. So it's a kind of I think like anything, whether it be public speaking, a lot of people are obviously afraid of that. I'm not, but no, I'm shaking it. But obviously,
sorry, the ego has landed.
Whenever you do anything, I think to be fair, when Bax first started, I think I was the only one because I'd read a load of books and it was like, oh yeah, you have to do this. I'm thinking, yeah, it sounds like we need to do this. And then he was like, just stick a camera in front of your face. We had a few of them where I think I had to invite someone onto like the webinar or something like that, and we did that like why ain't you signed up thing before, and apparently one of my customers had that on loud. And he had it in the finance office, and it was like, what are you watching? Like she didn't realise it was me. Yeah.
Yeah, because and I think it goes back to the what you touched on quite a few times is actually some of the positive side effects of doing the podcast that you wouldn't have really taken into account. You know, like that ability to be on camera, which you're all naturally confident, obviously. You know, as sales and leaders and stuff like that. But it's that the way it's like enhanced it. Like I think really you could walk into anybody else's office or on anybody else's show, and you could hold your own. You know, and there's a bunch of different skill sets which I think you've took from there. But do you remember who your very first guest was?
Ben?
Yes.
Ben Roberts,
Ben Roberts, yeah.
He's the patient zero, the one that started it all.
That was my faux pas, because I don't think I introduced him, and I don't think I asked him a question until about 50 minutes in.
When you look at what we've been through the last 2 years, you know, everybody's made a shift. And we have to get on that wave, right? Because if we don't, you know, we're going to fall by the side. You know, you were mentioning BlackBerry's now perished. Yeah. Nokia is a thing of the past. You know, if you don't start innovating and leading, that's where, you know, you'll always
Equifax is obviously a global business, isn't it? It's very, very large and acquisitive, because your section of the business, am I right in saying, was acquired from Canon? Was that right?
Not Canon. So typically it was the Nuance business. So
that's right. Forgive me, Nuance.
I sit in the print automation team, which focuses on driving automation from the hardware device, you know, which is that kind of shiny thing you see in the corner of the office, which is a necessary evil. You generally need them to do something, but how do you make them almost like a powerhouse? How do you start to, you know, bring them into the automation
It's difficult to have a business, isn't it, an office space, or even a home office without some sort of print device. Because it's paper still as a medium to transfer information and move it out. I mean, again, I'm still receiving post, I'm still printing things out and having to scan it back in again in bits and pieces. So,
that was a
he
learning.
was talking for 40
minutes. Couldn't shut Wellesley up, but
we had a chat about
I like Ben.
Yeah, I got told off.
Yeah,
but we've learned, haven't we? We've learned.
I think it was
Just
about
use
halfway
it
through.
over-
I went, "Oh yeah, Ben, do you want to tell everybody who you are and what you're from? What do you do?"
And then in the magic of editing, we just took that bit and
Yeah.
stuck it out the front.
It's a good job you're here.
Until now, no one had to know.
Yeah.
Just letting all the secrets
So
out.
well, that's it. Editing, isn't it? We just need lights and makeup now. Oh no, we got lights. Big shiny on my body.
Yeah.
How do you think the podcast is going to evolve?
I think for me, I think we've got a good model now. I think if you look at some of the ones that are quite popular, like the Joe Rogans and all this type of stuff, it's about I believe it's about the guests. Like the hosts, obviously, are famous in their own right, but they bringing the guests on that are adding the real value. So as long as we can pick, similar to how we have done, whether it be leadership, sales, marketing, like all those topics that affect our customer base, if we just keep that in mind, and then again, it could be that we invite some customers on. Again, it's creating that community, isn't it? And then keeping the conversation going. What is the topical things? What do we need to look for? Because again, it's at tomorrow's workplace today. What do we need to be mindful of in the short term, stroke long term? But then looking at it from a business owner's perspective, looking at it from all those different facets that we generally cover, and then just again trying to keep adding value. That's the whole point of it, isn't it? Really?
No, I agree.
Yeah,
John?
I concur. I think, as we said earlier, you know, we went from the first 3 or 4 were just us 3 rambling away, and it was getting a bit not stale, but it was getting more difficult to be interesting. And then as soon as we brought guests in, it changed the dynamic for us. So I think more of the same. I think, the more guests, the more variety that will take it. And as you know, I guess 2023 is going to be quite an interesting year at home and at work. I think, you know, topics that we'll touch on both those sort of areas will be of interest to people to listen into. So yeah, keep going through your Rolodex.
Or we do the YouTube bit and we ask our listeners to like and comment and ask questions in the comments.
I've run out of my comments. I haven't got any more comments to put.
Because I am thinking that in terms of maybe need to shine a bit of a light on our internal stars that deliver our actual solutions. I think there's a place for maybe Rich Fish to come on and just explain about how his role is, and because I think he's pivotal in what we do. And then obviously there's Amy's been on, but then there's Will and a few others and Elliot, and there's quite a lot. Josh, there's a lot of knowledge and skill set that I think behind closed doors a lot of our customers don't know unless they've obviously got a project that they're working on, that I think I know the whole point of this show is to kind of educate our customer base that we're not just a print business anymore. We've got other facets to our business, and especially our element is very much cutting edge with some of the technology that we've got.
Yeah.
And I think that could be good. A little bit like you've been doing with the staff spotlight, but it's kind of, we can talk about lessons learned. We can talk about some of the common
frequently
problems.
asked question
yeah, the
type
frequently
thing.
asked question, because I think those bits we can chop down, and again, we either provide it as part of the training material for onboarding. There's all sorts. Again, the medium of I suppose, recording. If we can do it in, and this goes back to like the colours and the insights bit for me, and I think I did that recently where you've got to understand that people learn differently. So it's a case of, if you're bright red and you direct, do you want a quick start guide? What are the top 10 things I need to do to get working? If you're very blue, you want the A to Z map, you want the detailed textbook type thing. If you're yellow, again, fluffy, you might just want some, again, videos or bits to watch. So I think this enables us, now we have skill set like Bax and Ellie, we can bring more of our stuff to life than the way we're doing it. And again, it's having that stuff in mind. How do we better serve our customer and get that speed to value down as quick as possible? And then getting them to recommend us. That's the whole point of it. It's if we can get that wheel going where they're singing our praises and off it goes.
No, 100% agree. I think it's worth shouting out to Bax and Ellie, because I think without them, we literally wouldn't be here. So thank you to the team for the hard work behind the scenes. It's much appreciated from us, and shining a completely different light on Spectrum from a marketing angle. So
it's been a cultural thing, hasn't it? What I mean by that is like there was a lot of resistance and just, I suppose, perception of how is it going to be received? Is it going to be a waste of time? Like, are we going to get? But Ken says it all the time now when he's out visiting customers or if he's out networking. People are literally talking about the podcast and I've seen that, and again, that certainly helped us, hasn't it, with our with your budget and with your resourcing and staff and other things like that. It's actually proving the point that we're getting the word out, getting a bit of traction, and
it's just a nice real life way of us communicating, educating, and marketing us as people, but as a business, rather than a very bland. There's a brochure, there's a folder, and there's a business card. It's like, well, actually, you want to know a bit more about us or whatever, just look at our podcasts, and you'll probably learn more than you will from our.
You said it earlier. People buy from people, don't they? Not from brochures. So I think it's getting to know us as individuals.
Think, like you say, we've been doing some fun things where you have to eat chicken wings and explain what we do, or explain it to a 7-year-old.
That is bullying.
That was unbelievable.
See, that was my favourite. You explaining to a 7-year-old.
Yeah, it wasn't my finest hour. My finest 14 minutes or whatever it was.
It's a good video.
But it is. So, we're gone.
No, I was just going to say, and obviously, it's been beautiful to sit here from behind the screen and watch you all grow, blossom, little podcast. And like Neil said, like that sort of early perception and maybe becoming more relaxed and realising actually we don't need to be sort of too tense and serious, and we can just kind of be ourselves. We're all adults, and that's why a lot of the podcasts that we've seen succeed. Nick Marshall example. People just being people, which is really good. And then for the viewers as well, who have, it's a modest little collection of viewers, but we're seeing it grow each week, and I definitely think by next year we're gonna have a couple of thousand views per episode, which is very decent. And they've all had the opportunity of seeing the development of this show in real time. From the very early stage of like, let's just talk about automation for 55 minutes, and we'll do that, and then actually that's a bit boring, and sort of we're all learning, they're learning with us, and I think that's just a really cool, healthy, sort of organic process, really.
No, I agree.
It'd be good if we got some sort of comments or some subjects that maybe they'd like to cover in 2023 that we could attempt to get a guest in or something like that.
Yeah, we can maybe do like a Q&A once a month, where people can even like film themselves asking a question, send it in, and then you guys sort of like give your advice. And it doesn't always have to be, how would I automate this or whatever. It could be, I'm struggling to lead my team, and I don't necessarily, sometimes I feel like I'm a bit of an imposter and like what advice.
We'll answer that.
Yeah, yeah. I've heard you're real good at snooker, JV. Can I come and play with you?
So this is a good opportunity to put some viral pressure on some potential guests to come on the podcast. So who do you think would be your ideal guest for next year? Let's not go Elon, because our chances of getting Elon are slim, I'm reckoning.
So go Arteta. No.
Oh,
Can't get that.
Arteta.
Can you imagine?
You're not going to get Cardone either, Neil.
No, I can't get Grant. So I'll go Alex Almosi. Shall I try and get him?
I think Arteta's a good shout.
Arteta, yeah.
Do you think we could get Arteta?
Wow.
Leadership.
We might have to go down to London for
We'll
that
have to go to the Arsenal training camp.
They're going to let you out in London.
You imagine?
So, Bax, we'll do a little viral get Arteta on the pod for 2023.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't know who Arteta is.
I've literally just Googled him.
The like football. We've got one. We'll work on that campaign.
Yeah.
JV?
I don't know.
You say Klopp now.
I know.
Well, that'd
BBD.
be, that'd be all about teamwork, wouldn't it?
I want, to be fair, I need to nail Ian Birkin down, the guy that was co-authored the intelligent automation. So he did agree. It's just I think he got busy with other things and the fact that the hurricane kind of went through Tampa at the time.
Yeah,
so
he lives in Florida.
He lives in Florida, so I think that kind of had him occupied. So I'm going to try and nail down Ian because I think as a subject matter expert, he'll be good. And he's been in RPA for 15, 20 years or something. So yeah, he knows it inside out.
What about you?
We can edit. I know we can edit this bit out because I'm struggling to think of somebody, but I feel like we should think of somebody.
Dream big.
Dream
really
big.
Yeah. Because Arteta's pretty.
We'll go Steve Bartlett. We've had Oliver.
Because it might not be next year, but at some point.
I'll go Jordan Peterson then. I'll get him on.
Oh, Jordan.
Should we see how psychology fits with cultural fit and how automation is going to affect it all? That'll be interesting. I'm sure I'll have a viewpoint.
See, I'm back to the rich from tech buyer. But I don't know. I'm quite happy just asking questions. I've no idea who I'd want to bring on.
Audience, watchers, listeners,
tag them in the comments.
Tag some people in. Let's get some really good guests, just as good as we had this year on the pod for 2023. Right, so let's leave it there. Thank you, Thibaut. Thank you to my co-hosts for throughout the year.
Thank you.
Thank you to Bax and Ellie for everything you do behind the scenes. We really do appreciate it. Thank you to all the watchers, listeners, and subscribers. We're making real progress, and we couldn't do that without you. So thank you for that. But last but not least, thank you in particular to the guests because you have made the podcast what it is. And with that, we wish you a very Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year. And we will see you in 2023.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.